Welcome to Be Provided Conservation Radio, sharing stories and information about the environment, wildlife, and the people who are dedicating their lives to protect the world for future generations. These inspirational stories will take you from the Santa Cruz Mountains to remote areas of Africa.
I am Marcia Civic with Be Provided Conservation Radio, sitting here with Dr. Rebecca Cliff, from the director and founder of the Sloths Conservation Foundation, and Tess Rabichko, and she is the development director for the Sloths Conservation Foundation. So welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us today.
Yeah. So I am so happy to have you guys on the show, and thanks for taking a break in your workday to join us and talk about sloths. So.
Oh, it's no problem. I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. I know. I have a lot of questions, so if we don't get a lot of questions, I have a bunch. I want to just have you share with people a little bit about what you do. You know, like Rebecca, we can start with you. Like, what influenced you to get involved with sloths and sloth conservation?
I can't lie and pretend I loved sloths for my whole life. I didn't. I grew up in the north of England, and I didn't really know what a sloth was for most of that time. Yeah. And then I went to university, and I was doing a research placement through my degree. And as a part of that, I got the opportunity to come to Costa Rica and work at a, which was like an amazing opportunity, but I'd never really thought about it before. So I first came out here over 11 years ago and started working with sloths and just fell in love with them, and really discovered that no one knows this really weird animal, and no one's really done any long-term research on them either. So everything I was discovering was new to science, and that was really exciting as a young biologist. Yeah, I just found my life sort of taken over by sloths. Yeah, the rest is history. Found me, that's what I like to say. I didn't really find the sloths.
Well, that's great. Yeah, so you've been in Costa Rica for how many years? You said 12? Or
yeah, just over 11 years.
Over 11 years, wow. Interesting. So Tess, how about you? I know you're new to the Sloth Conservation Foundation, so how did you get involved with this?
I grew up in a really pretty nature area in southern part of Germany, and I've been always really interested in nature and animals, and kind of spent my childhood more outdoors and in the horse stables than at home. So it was quite obvious for me to study something animal or nature conservation related, so I ended up studying wildlife management in the Netherlands, and then was really lucky because I worked with NGOs in Europe and Asia and in Africa for the past several years. And how I ended up here is actually kind of a fun, uplifting story during those really challenging times, because initially I just planned on volunteering with the Sloths Conservation Foundation for a few weeks back in March. And then the pandemic hit, and I kind of got voluntarily stuck here and got a great opportunity to join the Sloth team. And I'm really excited for that. It's amazing. So I've been kind of trying to catch up with everything, but it's great. Having a good time so far, and can't really come stuck in a tropical paradise. So
I know.
Lucky.
I've seen the pictures you post, and yeah, it's hard to feel sorry for you. But it looks lovely. It looks very lovely. So yeah.
Have fun stories as well.
Yeah. I know. Well, and I know. I met you, Tess, through the Cheetah Conservation Fund, and it's just funny going from the fastest land mammal to the slowest, and it's pretty.
That is a very fun thing. I'm full of surprises. I think everybody was kind of laughing about it.
So I was wondering also, why Costa Rica? And you're located primarily in Costa Rica, correct?
We are. So it was because when I first came over here 11 years ago, I came to this sloth sanctuary in Costa Rica and understand the problems that sloths were facing here in Costa Rica. And I became quite involved with the community, and I just began to understand everything here. So it seemed a really sensible place to start helping, because you have to really understand the problems and the sort of intricate details of it before you can really come up with anything effective that you can do about it. So yeah, it just seemed like a sensible place to begin, and we are quite a young I only founded Sloco in 2017, so we are small, but we're growing very quickly. And the dream is to not just stay in Costa Rica. We do want to cover all of the sloths range one day, so we have big dreams, but this is just a starting point.
Nice. And can you describe what ranges that the sloth live in? What other areas?
Yeah, so they live in South and Central America, but they're only found within about, it's quite specific, but within about 17 degrees of the equator. And that's because sloths can't actually regulate their body temperature.
Okay.
So they're quite unusual as far as mammals go in that respect. So they can't actually survive anywhere where the temperature gets too cold. So they have to stay where the climate's very stable and tropical. So it's just in that little strip in South and Central America.
Oh, okay. So how many species are in your, I'm jumping around on some of these questions. So how many, well, actually, Justin is on. He's asking how many species of sloths are there, and are they all threatened?
So there are actually, thank you for the question, and there are actually 6 species of sloth, and 4 of those species are least concerned, and then we have the pygmy sloth, which is in Panama, and they are actually endangered, and then we have the main sloth, which is in Brazil, and they are vulnerable.
I'm just going to interrupt with people saying hello. Angie says hello. Angie's online. And Harriet says hi from Bristol Township, Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And Sarah and Aptos and Nicole. Hi, Nicole. I know Nicole from Michigan. So we've got some listeners from all over the place. So that's good. So anyways, okay, can you tell us a little bit more about the Sloth Conservation Foundation, what you do?
Yeah, so we're a non-profit organization, and we specialize in conserving sloths in the wild, particularly through research and then community-based conservation as well. One thing important to note, a lot of people get confused by this, but we're not a rescue center. So we're not putting sloths in and rehabbing them and putting them back in the wild. Even though there is it's very necessary in Costa Rica because sloths are in trouble here. We want to put all of our resources and all of our efforts into preventing sloths from ever needing rescue. So really tackling the problems they're facing, which I'm sure we're going to go into more detail about the specifics of our programs as we go through this sort of live. But yeah, we work a lot in the community, and we do a lot of sloth tracking in the wild as well.
Okay. Yeah, I had that question. I wasn't sure if you were part of a rescue center and rehabilitation, so you're not related to it.
Not direct. So we do work with rescue centres in collaboration. We work with the Jaguar Rescue Centre right now because they get a lot of sloths. They get on average sloths every single day throughout the year being rescued. That's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. They are trying assist them with is the post-release monitoring of the sloths to make sure they're surviving when they're put back. So that's what we collaborate with the rescue centres.
Oh, terrific. Great. I have another question. Is that okay if we jump around? I really love questions from the audience, so I think that's great. So ask away, people, everybody. So why do sloths have their fur parted funny on their backs?
It's a good one. So sloths, their lives upside down. So actually a consequence of that is that their fur grows in the opposite way to any other mammal. So most mammals, it grows sort of from the back towards the front, and sloths grow from the belly towards the back.
Oh.
And what that does is when they're hanging upside down in the tree, and it rains, all the rainwater runs off the body because it follows the sort of flow of the hair. And the rain will just run off the sloth's body, and it's what we like to call the drip tip. That's the sort of the peak of fur that hangs down on the sloth's backs. It's where all the rainwater drips off. Yeah.
Nice. So they seem like they have a lot of fur. Actually, is their fur just thick, or are they mostly fur?
They are mostly fur. They actually have really dense fur for. The reason why is going back to the fact that sloths can't regulate their body temperature. So that's a way to save energy. If you wear a big thick fur coat all day, you don't need to invest a lot of energy in keeping your body temperature up. So yeah, really dense fur. They're super skinny underneath. Uh-huh. If you ever see a wet sloth, then you'll know what I mean.
Okay.
They look like this.
Just real thin and yeah. Oh, that's funny. So, Okay, well, good. We are getting some more questions. What is one thing that you would like our listeners to know about the biology of sloths? I know we talked a little bit about some of that with their fur, but like the role in the environment and,
Yeah, one of my favorite sloth facts actually is that sloths have an entire ecosystem just that surrounds them and their fur. So you've got the sloth, obviously, and then within the sloth's fur, they actually host over 70 different types of fungi and algae that are unique to a sloth. So some of these species are types of fungi that are found nowhere else on planet Earth, only in the fur of a sloth.
Okay, we are back. We are live. Hello, people. Please come back. I'm sorry we lost you. Yes, we didn't stop the show, that's for sure. So maybe I can't show pictures. Maybe that's what it is. So I might just avoid that right now. I was going to show a picture from Susie Esterhaus about the moths on the back of the sloth, but I'll have them in a blog post, so we'll see all those. Anyway, so we were talking about that, and I believe Nicole had a question about the same thing. Do the moths play a role on their back, and does that in something about an ecosystem? Do you know what I'm asking?
It's a mutualistic relationship between the sloth and the moth.
Okay.
So there's the moths don't bother the sloth at all, and they don't really provide any sort of drawback either. So they're not bothering the sloth and they're not benefiting them either. They're just living in the fur. And when the sloth comes down to the ground once a week, which it does to poop, because sloths will only poop on the ground, and they only do it once a week. It's amazing. They climb down to the ground, and when they get there, they do something which is actually now known officially as the poop dance. I'm not even kidding.
They do a little dance?
They do a dance. Honestly, look this up on YouTube. It's amazing.
Okay.
They wiggle around at the base of the tree. It looks a bit like they're twerking, right?
Yeah.
They wiggle around and they dig a little hole, and then they sit still and they poop. And as they're pooping, all of the moths that are living in their fur run off the sloth's body, lay their eggs in the sloth poop, and then they run back on the sloth before it has a chance to climb the tree. So the moths are using the sloth because they reproduce in sloth poop, and the best way to find sloth poop if you're a moth is to hitch a ride on the sloth, because it's going to take you there. So that's really what's happening. It's a really weird relationship, but the sloths don't mind the moths. They're quite nice, actually.
Great. And so what actually, because they don't eat the moths, do the moths fly off eventually, or do they just live right in their, they spend the time?
Whole lives in the sloth's fur. They actually
Okay.
very short distances. Okay. So if they'll like flutter from the sloth's arm to the sloth's leg or something.
Okay.
But they can't fly very far, so they just fur. And the sloths. So there's some research out there that says that the sloths will. Oh, it's very complicated. That the moths will add fertilizer to the sloth's fur, and that allows more algae and fungi to grow, which gives the sloths better camouflage. So there is that sort of angle that maybe the moths are providing a benefit to the sloths through fertilization.
What are the primary threats to sloths right now?
So it's all to do with humans, unfortunately, as it always is. It's to do with habitat loss and urbanization. So sloths, if you put them in a healthy rainforest ecosystem, they should represent about 50% of the mammalian biomass. That means in a healthy ecosystem, you'll have loads of sloths. Now, the problem is that when you start to get humans come in, then we cut down roads and we string up electricity lines and we bring dogs, and sloths cannot adapt to that change. And the main reason why is because they're incapable of running or jumping. Okay, so they really rely on habitat connectivity. They need the trees to physically overlap in order to move from tree to tree. If you start to break that apart, then they have no choice but to start traveling on the ground or using the electricity cables to move between urban areas. So in Costa Rica, the leading threats to sloths are actually power line electrocutions is number one.
Oh, interesting.
Attacks by domestic dogs when they're moving around on the ground is number two. You've got being hit by cars, so road traffic collisions as they try and get across the road. We've got genetic isolation is a growing problem. So we're seeing a lot of sloths with physical deformities, so missing limbs, and this we strongly suspect is to do with genetic isolation from urbanization. And then human exploitation as well, unfortunately, is also a growing problem. So people coming, eco-tourists coming, wanting to have a sloth, they often don't realize that maybe holding a sloth isn't a good idea.
Right.
They often think that, if you go to a rescue facility and they let you hold the sloth, that they know what they're doing and that this isn't a harmful thing. But actually there's a lot of exploitation going on where facilities and individuals are taking sloths out the wild purposefully just to sell photo props for tourists. They make a lot of money, the sloth dies, they replace it with another one. So that's
sad. Yeah.
It's really sad, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I know, I was trying to show another picture of a sloth on the road. I didn't realize dogs were such an issue as well. As once they get on the ground, they're pretty vulnerable, though.
No defense against a dog at all. It's quite a hard topic to tackle because people love dogs as well. We love dogs. Tess is obsessed with dogs. So it's hard to tell someone like the dogs are bad.
Yeah.
And it's not the dog's fault. It's the responsible pet ownership which is a problem. So people in Costa Rica don't keep their dogs on leashes and they don't even keep them in the yard. What happens is in the morning they let the dog out and the dog goes wandering wherever it wants to go in the day, and it might come home at night, it might not. While it's out there roaming around unsupervised, it is attacking any animal it finds on the ground.
Oh, yeah. That's really sad. So what conservation programs do you guys have at the Sloth Conservation Foundation to combat some of these threats?
So some of the things we do are, for example, building sloth crossing bridges. It's like, to counteract the problem with the power lines. So we build like a nice high bridge on top of the power lines, like with a nice rope, and then sloth and other wildlife can use those bridges to cross the road safely.
Yeah.
And that is very effective. Another thing we do is what we call connective gardens. So we actually work with forest reforestation. So we have a forest nursery and we replant like the trees the sloths like to eat to kind of, like reforest.
Yeah, reconnect the fragments.
Precisely.
Okay, yeah. Oh, nice. Those are nice programs. Yeah. I didn't mean to interrupt you, though. Sorry.
And then another thing, just like to come back to the dogs, is that we also have like a neuter and spay campaign. So we actually like spay and neuter about 10 dogs per month, like the stray dogs which are here in the area, just to make it a little bit safer for the sloths. But there are like many more projects. I mean, we do education, so we go out to the local community to work with school kids. We work with them in Spanish and also with the local language, which obviously we can't do that right now due to the pandemic. We also had to stop like the tree planting. But we were like lucky. Like, I mean, this week we kind of started to slowly go back out into the field again. Other projects are we work with sustainable tourism, so we're currently working on a really nice sustainable tourism campaign.
Oh, nice.
Just to get the businesses involved and kind of get people aware of, what, if you want to come to Costa Rica and if you want to travel and if you do want to see a sloth, please hire a local guide who knows what to do. Other things Becky also said, do not go to to like an individual or like an organization who allow you to take a picture with a sloth. But there's like many more projects. I don't know.
There's so much happening. Our main focus at the moment is on basically we looked at the threats that are big problems for sloths, and we thought, okay, what do we have to do? And it's all about keeping sloths up off the ground and safely in the trees. Mm-hmm. And so it's about reconnecting the canopy, whether that is through tree planting or through artificial canopy bridges. So we'll build the bridge and then we'll plant fast-growing trees underneath it. In about 5 to 10 years, the canopy will be reconnected naturally and we can take the artificial bridge away. It's about just creating a connected network so that the sloths can still move around safely in urban areas. And it's enabling that coexistence between humans and sloths, because that is the long-term goal.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. So how is the community with sloths? How do they view them? Are they willing to be supportive, or do they consider them as pests? Or
So more and more people love sloths.
Mm-hmm.
So every day that goes by, more people are jumping on board, and they love them, and they more about them, and as they learn about them, then they also respect them more, because historically sloths, the name sloth, everyone knows that is one of the 7 deadly sins, and sloths were actually named after the deadly sin of being lazy. In fact, I like this one. Their first scientific description in the literature was as the lowest form of existence.
oh my gosh.
You can't get much worse than that. So sloths really had to reinvent themselves. A good PR campaign, and now they're having a pop culture moment, and everyone is obsessed with them, which is a double-edged sword. So here in Costa Rica, a lot of people love in protecting them because it brings tourists in and they can make a living off of that.
Yeah.
You also have some people who see the value in them from a more sinister perspective with the pet trade and exploitation. Mm-hmm. So you've got that problem. And then if you go into the more remote areas, particularly the indigenous communities, sloths are sometimes viewed as vermin, which isn't great. They've actually heard them called the devil's animal because of the reference back to the deadly sin. They think they're smelly, stupid, lazy, all the bad things.
Oh.
So the good news is, within about an hour of talking to these people, you can completely change their perception, because it's based on things that are actually incorrect. For example, they'll think that sloths will raid their crops. That is a rumor that is passed from mum to baby. But a sloth is the least likely animal on planet Earth to raid your crops. So it's pretty easy to fix.
Yeah, it doesn't seem highly likely that. Yeah, that's a funny thing. Nastasha was asking how she has a couple questions actually, but Nastasha was wondering how smart they are, and are there a lot of sloths, the non-threatened ones? About how many?
So the intelligence level is interesting because there's not much research done on sloth intelligence or their brain structure even. But so they do have very small brains for their babies. They've got little pea brains, but that doesn't mean they're stupid.
Yeah.
So their areas of their brain, for example, that control forelimb movement, are really well developed for careful climbing. But the areas of the brain that are for social interactions, for example, or problem solving, are really, really underdeveloped, which makes a lot of people think that they're stupid, but they just don't need that for survival. Their brains are very much focused on the skills they need to live out there in the rainforest as a sloth, and you don't need to be very social if you're a sloth. So they're not stupid, but they're creatures of habit. And that's the big problem for sloths, because they will learn their home range from their mum. And if somebody comes in and chops down one, they sort of just sit there like, I'm sure there was a tree here, I'm just going to go there anyway. And they try and go there and they get hit by the cars, and they can't adapt to change. So that's why people think that, they're stupid, but it's not. It's just their evolution and the fact that they have this amazing spatial memory, and they can't deal with that changing very quickly. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the question.
The other question was, are there a lot of sloths out in the wild, and she asked the non-threatened ones.
So about how many, no one really knows.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to do a population count on an animal that you can't see. So what you should expect to see is a lot of sloths. Sloths everywhere. That is what there would be in a healthy ecosystem. Nobody really knows how many, because you can go out and walk a transect, for example. That would be how you'd do a population count. But you're not going to see probably 50% of them, because you have to remember that sloths have got about 60 million years of evolution behind them that makes them the masters of hide and seek. So they can blend into the canopy, and they can hide from a jaguar. So they can definitely hide from a scientist with a pair of binoculars. So you're just not going to see 50% of them. So we are actually doing a population census right now. We are about to start walking transects and start long-term population monitoring, but it's a challenge. And then the best way to fix that is actually with a scat detection dog. So using the fact that sloths poop on the ground really works in our favor, so we can find piles of sloth poop and work out how many sloths are in a particular area. So we're about to start doing that, but that will be the first time this has been done in Costa Rica. So
interesting. Yeah, I have another question too after this from Nicole, but to stay on this topic. So if conditions were ideal, would they be living in communities, large communities? I always think of them as kind of individual animals, until they have babies. But they're solitary. Okay, the thing I like solitary,
about they're solitary, but they don't fight with their neighbors. So if a sloth comes in, shares the same tree, they're not really bothered. They're like, okay, you're there, I'm here, let's just get on with life. They don't fight with each other, and there's plenty of resources for everyone if you're a sloth, because they don't eat very much. They can't. They take so long to digest their food, they can only eat a few leaves every day. Yeah. The only time do any sort of interaction with each other is over access to a female for mating. So then you start to get sloth fights. But other than that, they just ignore each other. They just go about their business and ignore each other. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. I can't imagine what a sloth fight would look like, actually.
They hang off of each other and try and pull each other out the tree. And they sort of jab each other.
Yeah, their claws are pretty sharp, I'm sure, or pretty long. Yeah.
Oh, but the aim of is to make your opponent fall out the tree.
Gotcha.
Because then, if you think about it, if you're a sloth, you're a male, you're trying to mate with the female, the best place for your opponent to be is down on the forest floor, because it's going to take. By that time, you've already mated with the female.
That's great. So Nicole asks, are they afraid of humans? Her son is planning to go to Costa Rica next year, and he's hoping to see one. How would he be able to do that safely and sustainably?
They are not afraid of humans, but they don't really like humans.
Okay.
So we are, as I said before, we also work with sustainable tourism.
Yep.
So we also encourage people to come and visit Costa Rica because it's a beautiful country, the wildlife is amazing, and obviously sloths are really great. So to really do it in a sloth-friendly way, I would always say, hire a local guide. First of all, they really know where the sloths are. Find them, make sure that you get a sustainable tour company, one which doesn't promote, holding a sloth, touching a sloth. When you do encounter a sloth in the wild, always stay 6 feet away, don't get too close. If the sloth starts to wave, a lot of people think actually, it's a good thing, but actually it's a bad thing. Once the sloth starts to wave, it's please stay away from me.
Oh, okay.
Don't be loud because we don't want to scare them off and have them fall off a tree. Another thing is, the sloth, they always look happy because they always have to smile, and a lot of people ask them. So it's kind of it's a bad thing for the sloths because it's not that they're always happy, it's just how their face looks. So a lot of people don't really realize, okay, the sloth is quite unhappy now if you do come close. So do come and visit, but do it in a sloth-friendly way, and just the best is to do with a tour operator who's kind of looking into conservation and who's taking care of sloths and not exploit them.
Stay away from those parks to get selfies with them and such. Are there a lot of those around where sloths exist? A lot of those kind of parks?
It ranges. In Costa Rica, they're quite strict on it. So the government here are very on top of it, and they crack down as soon as they get a report of someone offering, because it's illegal in Costa Rica to have a selfie photograph with a wild animal.
Oh.
So the government have put that law in there, and if they get a report that anywhere is allowing that to happen, they do go in and stop it and shut it down. In countries like Colombia, Venezuela, and Honduras, places like that, it is rife. So this is happening every day all over the place because it's not illegal. It's allowed to happen. So in those countries, there's a much bigger problem with it.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's a question about what other animal threats, I know harpy eagles will hunt sloths as well. Do they have to worry about
Yeah.
jaguar?
Yeah, so any big cat or big bird is a threat to a sloth, and big snakes as well.
Oh,
So,
snakes, okay.
Yeah, so the main predators would be jaguars, ocelots, margays, and then you've got the harpy eagle, obviously. But there's just not many of these animals left because of humans.
Mm-hmm.
So harpy eagles are actually extinct in Costa Rica.
Oh, they are.
They are. There's some apparently in Panama, but yeah, here in Costa Rica they've not been seen for a very long time. So sloths don't really have too many problems with predators here. So yeah, it's all coming from humans, unfortunately, in Costa Rica.
Oh, wow. Yeah, interesting. So let me see. I'm just going through the questions. Do you have an actual education center and program?
We're actually working to build one right now, right?
Are you?
Very exciting progress for our
Congratulations.
And 2021 is we're buying and building our own sloth for the community, only so that we can bring local children, particularly from like indigenous communities and places like that, to bring them down and show them a sloth and show them and be able to physically teach them about the animal, because by doing that you get them to love and respect the animal, that back, and they tell their families, and they pass it on. So yeah, we really are very passionate about working with children.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, congratulations on getting the center going for next year. Nicole asked what size of snakes, or what kind of snakes would actually go after a sloth?
Oh, boas. You get huge ones here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Hey, we've seen some videos from around here of boas that are just
wow.
and these don't eat sloths as well. And then sloths will also have run-ins with venomous snakes in the wild, like the vipers. So we have a type of snake here called the fer-de-lance. Terciopelo is the local name. And these will kill a sloth. They won't necessarily eat the sloth, but they'll kill it just because
they can.
Just bumbling along. Like sloths are 90% blind in the daytime, okay? Sloths can't see very much. They've got this amazing spatial memory and a fantastic sense of smell, but they haven't got great eyes. So there is a video online of a sloth just like bumbling along, and there's this huge anaconda, and the sloth just walks right over it, and you're like, oh. Because you can't see the anaconda, so it's like, what? So sloths will unfortunately get into altercations with snakes by accident. The venomous snake, the snake will probably bite the sloth and it will die.
Yeah. So none of the snakes really actually eat them, do they? Or
boas will.
Oh, boas will. So how big are sloths actually? What's an average size? Size and weight maybe, to give an idea?
So the size is about 3-fingered sloth about 60 centimeters.
Okay.
2-fingered sloth about 80.
Okay.
The size, I will leave to Becky.
The weight, so it ranges, but average for a 3-fingered sloth is about 4 kilograms. And for a 2-fingered sloth, because they're a little bit larger, we get up to about 6 to 7 kilos is the average. But I have met an 11-kilogram sloth before.
Oh, wow.
He was a big one. Yeah.
Was it a female? Or are females bigger than male at all?
Tiny bit. They tend to be, females are a tiny bit larger, but it's really negligible. Like, it's hard to say for sure, but yeah, this is a female.
So how many babies would they have in their lifetime? They can only have one baby at a time, correct? Or can they have twins?
Okay, so they have one baby at a time, and they have about one baby every 2 years on average in the wild. They can have twins, but they will not raise twins, because what a female sloth will do is spend 12 months with her baby on her belly, on her chest, and the baby will stay there until it's almost as big as her. And there's just not room on her body for her to carry 2 sloths around, especially if she's got no energy. So there have been reports, and I've seen it myself, of a sloth giving birth to twins, but what will usually happen is the female will reject the smaller and the younger one. And those are the ones that tend to end up in rescue centres. So I know a lot of rescue centres receive very, very small sloths.
Wow.
and these are usually rejected twins.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, so once they're rescued and rehabilitated, do they don't have any issue going back out in the wild at that age, being around humans so young, or do you not send them back out in the wild at that age, after they hand raised? Yeah.
You opened a can of worms.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
we don't have to talk about that.
Fine. We don't know for sure.
Okay.
Now, every rescue center has a different philosophy on this, okay? What I believe is that every rescue center is trying their best to help the sloths. Some of them are putting them back out in the wild with radio collars and trying to monitor the survival. Others are saying they're not going to do it until they know the sloths can survive, because a lot of them have tried and failed after being raised by a human. Some places are doing it and they're having a lot of success, which is really positive. So it's definitely a work in progress, and it's not as easy as a lot of people think. It does take a lot of work and a very specific to raise that baby and get it surviving in the jungle. But I believe it's possible. I do think it can happen, and we're working on that. Actually, we're working on it with a few different rescue centers at the moment.
Oh, that's great. Well, let's talk about tracking a little bit. I know you and Tess just returned from a tracking expedition, so you put these cool little backpack trackers on them, correct? Do they all get those little trackers when you're watching them?
Well, the backpacks are slightly different.
Oh, okay.
The ones we've done recently are the collars, and I'll let Tess tell you about that.
Okay.
The backpacks, this is something I did a few years ago. It was called the Sloth Backpack Project. Those ones had little data, and that was very different. That was sort of monitoring sloth behavior and energy expenditure in the wild. The collars that we've been using,
So it's like tiny, cute little VHS collars actually you put on a sloth, and then we recently released some in the rescue center here around the corner,
Okay.
and have been monitoring them now. And sloth tracking, I think everybody thinks it's like super adventurous and super fun and super exciting, which it is, but you need to keep in mind that it's the rainy season now,
Right.
But it has been really good. We were able to find the sloths, so you track them with your receiver, and you need to try to find them, identify them. But it is a little bit difficult because, first of all, you kind of walk around and you look up behind the canopy, and it's like a little brown furry blurb, which could be a coconut or termite nest or like brown leaves. And then also with the receiver, it's like the jungle, so a lot of times the signal bounces back and forth, so you spend a lot of times just running forth and back like 5 meters between points. And sometimes, because it's like at a national park close to the ocean, like we had it also the other day that the signal came from the ocean. And we were like, well, we do know that the sloth is not in the ocean. So it's kind of trial and error. Becky is a pro, but still we run around in the rainforest a lot between 2 points trying to find the sloth. But it's very exciting. It's very fun. It's good to get out to the rainforest once in a while and not only be stuck in the office. But it's currently very hot and humid, so It's nice to be inside today. We actually enjoy it.
Oh, good. I know we're already kind of running close on time, but I just wanted to ask, for some young people who want to get involved with conservation, what does your day-to-day jobs look like? Are you out in the field a lot? Are you in the office? How does that work?
At the moment, I would say for Becky's and my job, it's mostly being in the office, making conservation program plans for this year, for next year, working on our education center plan, doing a lot of business things, capacity building. Once in a while, going out into the field. So everybody always has this, I would say, romantic idea of a conservationist or researcher in mind that you're always outside, and but it's not. I think it depends on which role you have. We do have like our field operations manager who is out in the field basically all the time while we do the behind the scenes thing.
Yeah, they get the fun job. The guys we have out planting trees and is there doing all the field work, reading poor texts, in the office most of the time, doing the unglamorous side of conservation.
Which is also very important.
It is. You're doing the awareness and getting the word out. That's for sure. So yeah, I always think, I wish I could show this book because the video isn't showing, but Rebecca and Susie Esterhaus created this book called Sloth: Life in the Slow Lane, and it just seems like you guys spent a lot of time in the field. You had to have a lot of patience to get these beautiful photographs that Susie captured, and it just always seems like you have to be a very patient personality for this.
Yeah, the patience is key with sloths.
Yeah.
Sloths don't do anything fast.
Yeah.
So you just got to wait for them. It's all whenever the sloth decides it's going to wake up. Me and Susie have spent 13 hours lying on the ground in the jungle waiting for the sloth to wake up.
Yeah.
Just non-stop, 13 hours. It's a really long time. We've had some pretty epic adventures to get the photos in that book.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We've been stranded on desert islands. We've been stung by jellyfish. It's been awful, but fun but awful.
At least you're together and a good companion. But yeah, I remember seeing a picture, I think you posted, Rebecca, of you and Susie on a platform, and I think one of you is sleeping, snoozing away.
Susie fell asleep. I was awake watching the sloth like I should have been. Susie was snoozing next to me.
That was a great photo. So, yeah, somebody asked, I will put the name of the book in the comments so you can look it up. And I feel really bad I can't show any photos right now because we do have some beautiful photos as well. And I apologize to you guys for that, for the video. I think we're just getting a low connection. But I know we're getting close on time, and you guys have to get going pretty soon. Is there any current projects, while you're talking about the education center, are there any other current projects going on?
Besides the reforestation, well, we're about to build a brand new forest nursery as well, which is really exciting because our demand for trees is just growing day by day. And right now we're producing about 1,000 a month, but we need to triple that right now. So we're about to build a brand new forest nursery as well, which is awesome.
Oh, terrific.
And excitingly, we're about to launch an accreditation program for businesses in Costa Rica. It's called the Sloth Friendly Network, but it's going to be about making property owner and business as sloth friendly as they can possibly be, whether it's educating tourists and guests who come, or whether it's making the grounds of their business, so if it's a hotel, for example, as sloth friendly as possible, planting trees, installing wildlife bridges. So we're just working, it's like a big mosaic. We're taking every little piece of privately owned property and we're making it as good for wildlife as we possibly can, and we're just working outwards. So I've got really high hopes for that for the future. I think it's going to be really effective.
Oh, congratulations. That's wonderful. So how can people help? A lot of our listeners are not in sloth areas. How can we help with sloth conservation?
That's a very good question. Thank you. I would say there are three main things people can do. Number one is donating. Number two is raising awareness. And number three is also volunteering your time and skill set. So examples are, for example, we have a really great donation package on our website. For example, you can adopt a sloth, or you can sponsor a sloth crossing we kind of mentioned before. I really like that because for every sloth crossing we do, we actually have a little wooden plaque with your name on it, so you're kind of famous all over Costa Rica.
Oh, nice.
So that's my favorite project. But please check out our website at slothconservation.com for all the other ways and how you can get involved and how you can support us.
Terrific.
Secondly, creating awareness. Word. I would encourage everybody to sign up for our newsletter. It's a monthly e-newsletter where you can join Team Sloth. We kind of share updates, fun facts from the jungle, and just to keep you up to date with what has been going on. Another really nice thing is to help us celebrate International Sloth Day. It's on October 20th. Bookmark it in your calendar.
Okay.
We want all of you to join us and help us celebrate. So it's just fun things you can kind of help us spread the word. And then also like number 3 would be like volunteering your time and skill set. So as we said, Becky founded the organization just 3 years ago. We're a small team of dedicated conservationists, but we are always looking for help or for experts who want to support us, like in the area of grant writing or marketing or development or something like that. And we're also currently looking into like expanding our board members and trustees. So if any one of you is like, yay, I would love to get more involved and want to either volunteer my time, skill set, or like, do more, please send us an email or reach out to us. And so we are always looking, forward to getting people more engaged and excited about Sloth and, kind of spreading the work we do.
What gives you hope for sloths in the future? This question can be for both of you.
For me, it's honestly my favorite thing to receive in my inbox. And besides nice people donating money and time to our efforts, it's messages from children. And I get an awful lot of these from people all over the world. But what really fills my heart with joy is, when a child messages says that they love sloths and they love what we're doing and they want to help in the future. That gives me hope, because it's the next generation who are going to control what happens in the future. So really getting them engaged and engaging their passion when they're young, I think is really exciting. And I think because I get the messages from children and I'm so happy.
That's wonderful.
So much hope,
I think there are like two things for me. One of it is like we've been like doing the work just for 3 years, but it had like the impact the work has made. It's just like really, really great. So I believe like the longer we stick around, the more we can do. It's gonna have such a really great positive influence on the sloths. And then the other thing is I think there's like a really great young generation of conservationists now who's all into networking and how we can work together and like helping each other out, like no matter which species you conserve. So I think the more like all of us conservationists work together, the more we can reach, the more we can do. So I think it's, there's a lot of bad things happening, but I think there's a lot of really great things happening in the world of conservation, and it's just more and more in people's mind. So I would say we're quite hopeful for the future of sloth.
Well, it sounds like it, and they have a good team working for them for sure. So I thank you for all you do with this. Yeah.
Thank you very much for taking the time. And questions?
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many more questions, but we'll have to do this again when we have better video. But I've really enjoyed it, and I'm sure all of us really appreciate everything you're doing. So thanks everyone for listening and putting up with the little video wonkiness, and I hope to wish you guys the best of luck. So
thank you. Lovely to talk with you today.
Thank you all for joining.
Thank you for listening to Be Provided Conservation Radio. Links and resources to today's topic are in our show notes on iTunes. We appreciate your dedication and interest in protecting our natural world for future generations. If you like what you heard, please get involved by volunteering, donating, and sharing these podcasts with your friends. It also helps us to inform more people if you take a minute to leave a rating or review on iTunes. Have a great day, and thank you for listening to Be Provided Conservation Radio.